Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today it is Monday, 14th of July 2020, and today our topic is factors of production or resources of an economy. In our last session, we described the meanings or the definition of economics, that economics is a social science which deals with the study of how human wants, unlimited human wants, are fulfilled by utilizing the limited resources of an economy. For that reason, every economy of the world is going to face a problem of scarcity or basic economic problem. So what is the scarcity? That is the scarce resources we are having, or factors of production. They are limited in supply. They are finite. They cannot be infinite. So we have to use them in such a way that their efficiency is achieved, that we are utilizing them in such a way that maximum of human wants are fulfilled. Although human wants are continuous in nature and they are continuously increasing, but we need to utilize these resources in such a way that maximum of human wants are satisfied. So how many types of resources are there? One is called, there are four main factors of production. One is called land, another is called labor, and third one is called capital, whereas the fourth one is entrepreneur. Entrepreneur. So we are talking about these four factors of production. They are present with all of the economies, and now they have to utilize them in such a way that the maximum of human wants are satisfied. Economy, I have used this word. Economy means this is a place, this is a country or a society where economic activities of production and consumption are taking place. What are the main economic activities? Production and consumption. Consumption comes from the consumers or society members, which is the main component of any economy to run. Whereas production comes from the producers who are combining these resources to produce those goods which will ultimately satisfy the human wants. Okay, now these are the four factors of production. We also say them as resources of an economy. So all the economies of the world, all the economies, they are having these four resources. The difference is that some of the economies, they are having enrichment of land resources like natural resources. There are plenty of natural resources available with them, and they are also valuable as well. Like some of the economies of the world, they are having oil reserves, gold reserves, they are having mining, they are having all types of precious resources, valuable resources. So they are having natural endowment. Endowment means they are God gifted without any effort. They are provided to a certain country. And some countries, they are having good labor resource. They are having intelligent, skilled and trained, educated labor force. Like in European countries, we are having good capital skills and labor is also very much productive. So although they are not owning too much of the land or the natural resources, but they are having better skilled and productive labor, and they are also having more of the man-made resources like capital, machinery, technology. They are owning it. So by this they are able to produce more man-made resources or those goods which are manufactured in nature, and they are fulfilling the gap of unlimited human wants and the minimum resources or the limited resources which are available. Entrepreneur, this is considered to be the fourth factor of production. So basically, entrepreneur, that is a risk-taking body which combines other factors of production to produce those items which are demanded by the consumers. So if there is no entrepreneur, there cannot be the combination of all these above factors of production to produce those goods which are actually going to satisfy the human wants. Now, one by one, I'm going to explain what is meant by land. Land, as the name is suggesting us, that this is the surface of piece of land where economic activities of production and consumption, they are taking place. So land means this is an area, this is a surface area of a country where, or economy where economic activities are taking place. Either economic activities of consumption or production, both are taking place on this piece of land. Now, land includes some of the resources which are present on the land and some are under it. Beneath the land, beneath the surface of land, many of the natural resources are present. So natural resources are of two types. One is called renewable resources. Renewable resources. These are the resources which can be renewed by the nature themselves. They don't need any type of human effort to renew them. For example, we are having rainfall. We don't have to do anything special to have the rainfall. It is renewed by itself, by the nature, by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So another resource, that is air, sunlight, seawater. So all these resources can be renewed by themselves. They are the renewable resources. They can be abundantly available to most of the economies or many of the economies. Some of the economies, they are lacking rainfall. They are not having more of the rainfall. That's why their agricultural sector is mainly affected. Okay. So we have these types of renewable resources. They are recycled, they are renewed by themselves. We don't have to do anything special for them. And another type of resources, that is non-renewable. For example, we are extracting oil, we are having gold, we are having silver, copper, and many other things, metal items, and many like diamonds. They cannot be renewed by themselves within short period of time. They take thousands of years to be renewed. Like oil can be renewed from the fossils. So how much years it will be taking to be renewed? This is not having a short-term phenomena. Gold mines, they cannot be renewed. Yeah. Okay. So now we say this is the oil which cannot be renewed by itself within short period of time. Gold mines, they are also present, but they cannot be renewed by themselves. Okay, and silver. So all these countries who are having these non-renewable resources, they are having more resources in the form of oil, gold, and silver. We say they are having more of natural wealths. So if they extract them and then utilize them in order to produce, these are actually used as raw material. Land is basically providing us the raw material to produce the manufactured goods. So when these raw materials, they are extracted, they will be further utilized to produce other goods and services. So that is why we say this is natural wealth or natural endowment. What it is? Natural endowment. Endowment meanings what? Which are unearned. If I say you are nowadays having endowment income, like your parents are going to finance you, they are providing you pocket money, so that is your endowment income. This is unearned. You haven't earned it, but your parents, they have given you as a pocket money. So when a country is having natural resources in the form of oil, gold, silver, we say that is the natural wealth or natural endowment. This is unearned. These are also unearned, but they are having less market values. They are having even zero market value. What is the price of rainfall or air or sunlight in the market? So we can utilize them in the production of agricultural farming. But as far as the non-renewable resources are concerned, they are more precious, they are having more market value. We can give them, that is called natural endowment. They are unearned. If Saudi Arabia is extracting oil, it is utilizing it in the form of exports, and out of the exports earning, they can have all of the goods, whatever are demanded in their country. They can import them. And if a country is having gold mine, so it can extract gold by utilizing capital resources, and after that it can export it, it can use it. So this is the natural wealth. So land is very important as far as the renewable resources are present on it, or whatever is present beneath the surface of the land, that is oil, gold, silver, whatever the metals are available, diamond, they are present with certain countries. Some of the African countries, they are lacking rainfall. They are having the natural environment, very less of the rainfalls are available, but they are having the diamond mines like Botswana, so their resource. But the problem is that if they are having diamonds, they don't have skilled labor and capital goods to extract that diamond. So the countries who are having the capital goods, the machinery to extract those diamond mines, they come forward to extract the resources of these poor countries, and then the developed countries will be taking most part of this diamond earning to their homeland. Anyhow, this is a natural division. We cannot do anything, but we cannot increase the area of a country. Okay, there is no way right now in order to have land reclamation. Okay, you can observe nowadays China is reclaiming its area from Indian territory, so that can be by hook and crook. If one country is powerful than another, it can have the land reclamation. Okay, but majority of time we don't have such type of normal situation to have land reclamation, that we are conquering Afghanistan and we are occupying all of its resources naturally present. This is not the case. Any powerful country can do it, but normally we don't have land reclamation. Whatever the area of land is present in our country, that will remain same. Okay, we have to utilize its area either to produce the goods or use it in the form of consumer item. Like if we are having more of residential area, so we are not producing anything for the human wants, but we are utilizing the same land for our residence, that is for consumption purpose. So we have to use it in such a way, how much land will be covered for residence, how much land will be covered for agricultural, how much land is given for the defense of the country. So land is fixed, and all the resources within this land, they are also finite. They are not increasing by themselves again and again. If we are overutilizing them, or we are exploiting oil, we are exploiting, like we are extracting too much of oil, too much of gold, so these reserves, the natural reserves, will be running out. And that economy will be facing the future problem if at present time they are exploiting their natural wealth. So they have to preserve these resources as well, that their future generation should also be benefiting from these natural wealths. If they are overutilizing, they are exploiting these resources, so their future generations will not be having the same living standard as the present generation is enjoying. Now land covers these resources. Now if we are using land for production purposes, so what do you think, what will be the reward for the use of this piece of land? The reward for the use of piece of land will be the rent. Rent is paid to the landowner for the use of the area for the production of goods and services. So how rent is determined? The question is how rent can be determined by the landowner. Okay, we can say, you might have studied in your O-level, this comes from the concept of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost means the next best alternative which is foregone for the sake of our present choice or present decision. So if we are using this land, this piece of land for school premises, so it has sacrificed a leather export unit. So it has a huge opportunity cost in order to use this piece of land for schooling. So if opportunity cost is increasing, alternate uses are very high, then rent will be higher, which will be paid to the landowner. And if we go to the remote areas, like to the villages where alternate uses are very less, we are having farming only or residential land, there is no commercial value of that piece of land, then rent will be lower because alternate uses are very less. So rent will be lower and lower. So it depends how much opportunity cost is present, how many alternate uses are present, then rent will be determined. If you go to cantonment market, so if one of the shop becomes vacant, by the next day, by the next week, it will be reoccupied by another person. Why? Many people are there to occupy the same shop for a higher rent. So if someone is offering a higher rent, the owner of that shop will be giving it to that person who is offering more rent. So it depends upon the opportunity cost, how rent can be determined. Rents, they depend upon what? The alternate uses. If alternate uses are higher for the piece of land, then rent will definitely be higher and it goes to the landowner. Now, if I ask you, if you are living in your own personal home, you are having your own house, so you are not giving it on rent, are you paying rent to yourself? You must pay because it has an opportunity cost. If you give it to another person, to any rental, this house will be paying you, the premises will be paying you a rent, suppose 30,000 per month, 50,000 per month. So you have sacrificed that rent for the sake of your own living. Okay, so the area of land where we are living nowadays, although these are owned by us, we are the owners of our own houses, so they are also having the opportunity cost. If they are given to some other renters, that house will be bringing us a rent income. So we should pay rent to ourselves. If your factory is located on your own piece of land, it has again the opportunity cost. If the same factory premises is given to another factory person to build to produce the goods and services, that factory would have been earning a rent for you. So that is an opportunity cost which you have sacrificed. So you need to ask your accountant that rent should also be taken from the business accounts to your account. Your account will be credited by the amount of the opportunity cost you have sacrificed for the sake of your own business. So rent is actually an opportunity cost. How opportunity cost is increasing, rent will also be increasing. So the main thing for any economy, that is the area, how much area this country or economy is covering and what type of resources they are having, whether renewable resources are abundantly available or non-renewable resources are abundantly available, then we have to utilize them in such a way that maximum of human wants should be fulfilled. That is the factor of production land, how we are using it for our economic purposes. Now come towards the labor. The second resource of an economy, that is human resource. The human efforts which are required to produce the goods and services. And the second resource, that is labor. How can we define labor? You are physically not in front of me, so I cannot raise a question to you people. So labor, that is the physical and mental efforts. Physical and mental efforts provided in order to produce goods and services. To produce goods and services. So I have written the two words physical effort or mental effort. Two types of workers are available in any of the economy. Some are doing their physical efforts, like if we say one of the peon, he is providing us more of the physical efforts. Some of the loaders, they are providing us more physical efforts. Okay, what are the mental efforts, like your managers, your teachers, the doctors, they are rendering what types of services? More efforts, they are related to mental efforts. It does not mean if one person is providing us physical efforts, he is mentally absent from that place. He is present mentally, but the proportion of work he is performing or she is performing, that is more physical. And mental efforts, they are having proportionately more efforts by their mind. They have obtained certain types of skills, like they have become doctors, managers, teachers, engineers. So they are having more mental efforts to render in order to produce the goods and services which are demanded by the country, people in a certain time period. So labor is coming from the population of a country. These are the human efforts. So what should be the age group to provide these mental and physical services? So age group, we say, what will be the labor force? Labor force is a group where we find the number of people living in a country between this age group, 18 years to 60 years. In some of the countries, we have 16 years and 65 years. Both are accurate. Okay. 16 years of age, some of the students, they leave their schoolings after 16 years of age. In some of the countries, the students are leaving their schools at 18 years of age. Okay. Now they are available, now they are eligible to work. Below this lower limit of age, if someone is working, that is an abuse of child labor. It is considered to be a child labor abuse if someone is working below this lower age group. Now, between 18 years to 60 years, this is the working class or labor force of a country. Either we are having male or female, those who are available to a country in order to work, they are said to be the labor force or working age group. So above 60 years of age, we say they are the old age people. Okay, they are retired or pensioners. So they cannot be part of the labor force. And in some of the countries like Canada, they have the retirement age of 65 years because they are having good health conditions and their population size is quite lower than other developing countries. So they extended their retirement age to 65 years. And some populated countries, those who are not having more job creations, they may reduce this retirement age. Okay, they ask their people to get retired at the age of 55, that new people, more people should be provided employment. Okay, this is the labor force area or working age group. What type of people will be available to work in a country? Now, it depends. If population size of a country is very high, like India and China, so they will be having more labor force available to work. So if population size is higher, if birth rate is higher than the death rate, so population is continuously increasing over the period of time. So when population is growing, so that country will be having more people available to work. Now it depends what type of labor they are going to have, whether it is having more mental efforts provided by them, they are educated, skilled and better quality labor force a country is having, or they are having just increased population size like the developing countries, they are uneducated and they are unskilled, so they can render more of the physical services. So in order to have good economic growth or very good economic growth, we need to have this labor force better quality and better, and having a higher level of education, like more doctors, more engineers, more chartered accountants, more scientists. If they are available to a country, then we say the human capital of this country is increasing. So that can be utilized to produce different types of goods and services. That country which is having more educated and skilled labor force, their economic growth can be better than the countries who are having uneducated and unskilled labor force. Okay, this is the labor force area. So this comes from the population size. If population size is higher, then more labor force, more people are available. And if population size is lower for a country, less labor will be available. So I say the population size depend upon the birth rate. What else? The death rate. And the last one will be the net migration. Migration, you might be knowing immigration and emigration. If people are leaving our country to settle in Canada, we say they are emigrating from Pakistan. Emigrating. Emigration means they are exiting Pakistan to settle in another country. So if more of our educated people, they are leaving Pakistan and they are settling in other parts of the world, so our human resource, our mental effort, they will be serving to other nations. This is called brain drain problem. We have made them able to be educated, to be prepared for our economy, but now they are serving to Canadian economy, to Saudi Arabian economy, to Australian economy. One of my friend, he is PhD in economics, but he is serving to Australian economy, Australian government. So he is not working for our country, for our Pakistan economy. So that is called emigration. So if people are entering to our country from other parts of the world, like on the Gwadar port, we are having some of the Chinese experts, those who are serving to our economy, we say this is called immigration. So if immigration is more than emigration, we say net migration is a positive sign. Our population size is increasing. And which age group people are migrating? Between this age group. Usually countries where migration is taking place, that is having the age group of 30 years plus, before the 40 years, they migrate to other countries. So if immigrants are higher, net migration is positive. So we say the population size, population balloon of this country is swelling. So now more people are available to work. Now it also depends what type of people are immigrating to our country, whether they are educated and skilled one or they are just unskilled. From our country, many of the unskilled workers, they are entering to UAE, they are going to European countries in order to earn. So we are supplying the physical workers to those countries as well. But if they earn over there and send their incomes to our economy, again it is in our benefit. But if immigrants are coming and they are working in Pakistan and they are sending incomes to Chinese economy from which is their origin country, so then our income will be going abroad. So it depends. So how population size is increasing, if birth rate is increasing, death rate is decreasing within this age group, and net migration, they are all adding to the labor force of the country. Now, this country will be using the labor force in order to produce the goods and services. One more thing I want to add, what will be the reward of the labor services paid to each worker? We say this is the wage which is given, wages and salaries. This is the reward of the workers, the work they have performed in our country or in any other country, they will be rewarded as wage. Now, wages are determined again by the opportunity cost. Suppose I am working with my school at 50,000 rupees per month. So if another school is going to ask me to join, so this will be my opportunity cost to sacrifice in order to join another school. So if a worker is having more and more opportunity cost, his wage rate will be high. If one worker is unemployed, he has to sacrifice only his leisure time. So he can be offered a wage rate where he is satisfied to work. So his opportunity cost is lower. That is why his wages are low. Once he gets employed, now his opportunity cost will be increasing. So in that case, his wages will be going to increase. So again, wages are the rewards of the workers' efforts, but they can be determined by their opportunity cost. How their opportunity cost is increasing, their wages, their rewards will also be increasing. That's all for today. I have explained to you land and labor. Land is the natural resource. This is the human resource. I have analyzed them a little bit in detail. And in our next class, I will be dealing with capital and entrepreneur, how they are used in the production of goods and services. That's all for today. See you again, inshallah, in our next class with these topics. So keep in touch and try to raise questions if you are having, then I will be answering them. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.